Hello everyone. Today we're going to be making a pretty long video. I wrote a 6,000 page script, so we're going to get through it piece by piece. If you want to skip to a specific album, I will do the dirty work and leave timestamps if you're interested. So as you guys know, I've never been the biggest fan of The Garden. I did make a video about a year ago where I basically said that I thought that they were good for nothing and that they had no good albums. Oh boy, was I wrong. The Garden has always been a band that sort of eludes me. I think I took a lot of their work at face value and dismissed it as lacking substance or production value. Now, even though some of those still apply for some of their earlier work, I wanted to take a much needed reevaluation of The Garden's work, as well as coverage of some of their lesser known releases. Also, since my last video, a new The Garden album has come out, so I'm going to cover that one too. Let's start chronologically with when the band formed, which is with The Garden, the EP. It is technically an EP, and you'll see why in a second. The EP is 12 tracks, clocking in at 8 minutes and 14 seconds, with the longest song being the first song called The Gorilla. It's 1 minute and 12 seconds. This track is just drums and bass, which you'll become pretty accustomed to with these earlier releases. It takes up a majority of the first record. It's just basically bass and drum. The song is actually not half bad. The production can be a bit lo-fi, especially on the drums, but it has a good chorus to it, and it's like the longest track on here. It feels like it was the one that they put the most effort into. The next song is just called The Castle, which just vaguely reminds me of Come As You Are by Nirvana. It's this pretty short track. I don't think I will ever come back to the song, but it's good while it's on. The next track is called The Tractor. It's pretty one note with just the words, "I'm in my element, tractor," over this ominous bass line and reverberated vocals. The Tower is the next track. Again, it's really short, so I don't really have an opinion around it, but it's not super bad. The Mantis is the next track, and this one does have something that distinguishes it from the other songs, and that's the vocals. It has these like weird falsetto vocals that are pretty unintelligible. It reminds me of something that Jack Stauber would do on like Viator or Finite Form. The song also has more of like a punk rhythm with it, with these like fast drums. Pretty decent track if it's, you know, not just for the novelty of it. The Tunnel is the next track, and it's whatever. It's not really a song that I like due to the fact that it's so short and it ends before it even feels like it's begun, so I'm just gonna skip it. Same thing with The Bridge, the song, not like the bridge of the song. There are no bridges in these songs. They're basically like one verse. But at least with The Bridge, this one has a bass part that's like kind of half decent. The Airport is the next track. It gives off like a waltz feeling with these chromatic bass lines and loose drums. Coming in at 46 seconds, it's surprisingly a little bit longer than some of the previous tracks. The Whale Shark is the second shortest track at 26 seconds. The Plantation is next. All I can really say is that this track is cool for the drum part. It's interesting, but again, it's just really short. And The Crystals is the shortest song at 25 seconds. The song itself is like really nothing special. And with the last song, it's The Sailboat. This song actually does change up the time signature to a 6/4 shuffle, and I think that's a nice way to end the EP. So how do I feel about this record? I guess there are worse ways to spend 8 minutes. The songs are just way too short and not really all that memorable. The only ones I would recommend are The Gorilla and The Mantis, which are the only two real songs that stuck with me after listening. I think these songs thrive in like a live setting. During The Garden's early sets, they played a lot of these songs and sort of jammed and improvised, but at this point in their career, they really weren't focused on making full songs yet. They're just some like punk kids making weird albums, and I respect it. So overall, I do only give it like a 3 out of 10, because I only like 2 songs out of 12. I could give this album way lower a score, but I feel like that's fair. Next album, The Life and Times of a Paperclip, which already by the first track you can tell that the production quality has gone up. The first track is called Trust, and even though it's only 46 seconds, similar to the way that like the last album had really short songs, this one feels much more confident and structured. The bass on this song is more distorted, which is a welcome change since a lot of the self-titled has a lot of these bass sounds that are not distorted enough and have lots of reverb. This song also is like the first time that The Garden has like a weird vocal part that almost sounds like a ghost from like an old cartoon. This trend will follow them throughout the rest of their works, especially on their newest record, but we'll get to that when that fucking comes around. The next track is called The Apple, and it's a whimsical song about if you've ever seen an apple walking around. I like the interplay between the bass and drums, and again, the production is improving so you can actually hear the drums. The next track is called Vada Vada, and it's 18 seconds long. It reminds me of one of those like early alternative songs from the 70s and 80s that have weird words and like phrases being repeated over and over again. Honestly, I only like this song because it's like the first time that Vada Vada has been named directly, which becomes like a label that helps them distinguish themselves like The Garden and other acts. And this is like the first time they've mentioned it. So I thought it was a cool song. The next song is called Interrupt. And I would go ahead and say that this is the first good The Garden song. Other songs have been interesting and whatnot, but this song is like genuinely pretty good. It has a great bass line and a vocal refrain that gets like stuck in my head. Even at these early stages in their musical journey, they managed to make a pretty good song. The only thing I can say that I don't like about this song is that it's like only a minute long. Next track is called I See 'Em Off. It's not really my favorite. I think the repetition is a bit annoying and the instrumental sounds a bit similar to the other songs on the album, so it doesn't really do anything that's new. I have a similar problem with the song Life is a Hanger. It's kind of like a part 2. I see Life is a Hanger. I feel like this one's kind of like a bit slower than the other one. The Life and Times of a Paperclip is kind of like another waltz song. It's in 3/4. At 36 seconds, there's not much substance, but it's not terrible. What We Are is another good song. I think the drumming on this song is top notch, and the song is like, you know, a minute and a half, so it actually has time to develop, and unlike most early Garden songs, I feel like the lyrics are pretty impactful. I like the last verse where he says, "Technology is my master, don't let me kill myself. Over 80 years later, I'm just a hardened shell." Grass is the next song. I love the vocals on the song. All the songs so far have been like mostly punk, and I like that because of it. Again, on this song, there's another good drum and bass performance. The next track is called 8-Foot Man. 44 seconds long, it's just okay. I feel like I remember seeing them play this live in some old video. Gumdrop is not bad, but I think that some of the vocal straining could have used another take. Charlie is, from what I can tell, the first time that The Garden has used like another instrument. Other than drums and bass, it sounds like a harp, or it could be a sample, I'm not entirely sure. But it really caught my ear the first time I listened to it, so give it a shot. Useg is the next song, and it's not all that great, just sort of kind of derivative. I hate using that word. The Bird's Nest is next. It also has a synth in the background. It's similar to the one previously, kind of a harp sound, and there's also good energy between the bass and the drums. The next track is the most popular song on this record, and that's I'm a Woman. This song probably didn't help with The Garden's reputation of gender ambiguity and constant comments about whether or not Fletcher and Wyatt are transgender, as stated by the twins in their documentary.
There was this rumor going around, I guess, that we turned into like full-on Chinese. It was weird for us because we were like, why would that even matter if we were full-on Chinese? Like, what would be the problem with that?
Which, by the way, I love this documentary. It was made around the time that Haha was supposed to come out. And you can hear them like working on songs that would eventually make it onto that album. But yeah, anyway, back to the song. The lyrics of the song are just one verse repeated over and over again. I'm not really a huge fan. It's not super interesting to me. I don't really know why it's the most popular song off of this album, but to each their own, I guess. And with that, The Rocket is the last song, and I actually like it a lot. It has this really sweet, like, melodic riff, and all these little whistles at the end. So, how do I feel about The Life and Times of a Paperclip? Well, I think it's a pretty good album for the most part. At 16 tracks and 18 minutes, The Garden really stepped up with their ability to write good songs and experiment with synths and song structures. So overall, I give this album a 6 out of 10. By no means is it perfect, but an improvement is basically what this album is. The next project I'm going to go over is Rules, which is an EP that came out the same year as Paperclip. The first track is called Get Me My Blade, and yeah, it's not good. I would even go as to say it's the worst Garden track I've ever heard. It's this really shitty blown out trap instrumental with the most stock sounding like trap stuff from the early like 2010s. I've like genuinely never heard something so unfinished in my life. It sounds like a demo that should have never been released into this world. The shouty vocals don't help this song. It just is really tacky. I genuinely hate this song. If you like this song, I don't know where your priorities are, because they're not in your hearing. The next song is called Make This a Challenge, We Like You. I actually really like this song because of the tempo shift halfway through it. It gives some much needed variety to the tracks on this record. The next track is called Spirit Chant. I think the vocals are the best part of the song. The next song is Estamos Aquí. This song is originally from Everything is Beautiful, Perfect, which I'm not covering in this video because I've already reviewed it in my first video and I didn't like it, and I really, really wouldn't want to listen to it. Guys, you have to believe me. But this song is from that album, and it makes it onto here. It is re-recorded though, so it does sound better, but it's the same song, and I don't like it still. Go Outside and Play is more of the same drum and bass rhythms we've been used to, but it really doesn't change through the minute and 40-second runtime, which, I don't know, it's like my second least favorite behind Get Me My Blade. The last song is Circles, which, if we're not counting Get Me My Blade, this song is the first proper use of sequence drums, and it's not bad. I like the effects that are on the drums as well as the plucked notes on the synth. It makes the song stand out from the others. But with this EP done, I would rank this lower than the first EP. I'd give this like a 3 out of 10. Up until this point, all of the Gardens album has been released on Burger Records, which, you know, to say the least, turned out to be a really, really shitty label, accused of sexual misconduct from multiple members of the record label. So after Rules, the Garden signed with Epitaph Records and put out Haha. Now, I used to really hate this record, and honestly, I don't even really know why. It's really the Garden in their element. The songs have gotten much longer, with the first track, All Smiles Over Here, at almost 3 minutes long. Like, honestly, kind of unheard of up until this point. With the new change in direction, the band decided to heavily embrace synthesizers this time around, giving this album a greater variety of sonic palettes previously unexplored. A prime example being the intro to All Smiles, with this pad that builds up for like almost 30 seconds long, that breaks into almost real sounding drums playing along with this vocal that actually has like more layers on it than one, which shows that the Garden was putting more effort into each song. Speaking of vocals, this song has some really out there lyrics. I love the part in the breakdown with the flanger distorted drums when he says, "I focus on my toys, I focus on my toys." The whole song gives off this paranoid feeling and this sense of unease, but it's so cool. The next track is called Jester's Game. It's mostly comprised of deep pumping bass and these high-pitched, almost siren sounds, and it's great. The drums are also chopped up in this drum and bass sort of way. It really makes the track pop. Red, Green, Yellow is the first track that has bass guitar on it, like real bass guitar. It's a welcome addition to the track list. I love the chorus on it. This used to be my favorite song on this record. Not anymore. It's still a great song. It's definitely super solid, and when the tempo gets slow and goes back into the last chorus, I really like it. If you want a good, simple The Garden song, then I don't think there's any other one like this song. The next track, I honestly, fucking hate. It's really dumb and stupid. I hate this song. It's called Everything Has a Face. I know it seems like I'm being really harsh, but go listen to this song yourself. It's just not good. The next song is Crystal Clear. This song is very similar to Red, Green, Yellow. It's mostly drums and bass focused, but it also has these looming synths in this high end of the mix that keeps the song interesting. Lyrically, the song doesn't have much substance, but honestly, it's just a damn good song and doesn't really need a verse. I'll Stop By Tomorrow Night is the next track. It took a while for this to grow on me. I still don't really think it's the strongest song here, but the synth work on this song is pretty addicting. And overall structure is nice and concise. I also don't mind that it's a little under 2 minutes because it makes sense for this track. The next track is Haha. And this song has this staccato electric piano line that is pretty funny, to be honest. I think the best part of this song is the bridge, but other than that, it's just pretty one note. The next song is Vexation. It reminds me of Crystal Clear with its bass line, to be fair. I kind of like Crystal Clear's version better, but it's not a bad song. I actually really like the build with the snare drums throughout it, and the vocals are good too. I Guess We'll Never Know is a song completely comprised of synths, and it's pretty interesting. I like the verses because they have a weird, broken, spoken word feel to them. It's not a track I come back to often, but it's good while it's on. This Could Build Us a Home is the next track, and it's a good combination of bass, synth, and drums. I never was a huge fan of the vocals, to be fair, because they sound a bit whiny to me. I admit that the chorus is pretty catchy and the video game sounding plucks are cool. My favorite The Garden song currently is actually on this album. It's called Cells Stay Clean. I just love the way that the harmonies come in on the vocals. It's just the right amount of their early sound and their new sound. I like the synth effects, and the background is nice and balanced between a weird, creepy, and harmonic sound. And that last chorus makes me dance every time. I think the only problem I have is that it ends a bit prematurely. There could have been an outro to this song, but I can't complain. The next track is called Cloak, and this is one of the songs that you can hear in the Garden documentary.
Whatever, oh well, whatever, oh well. I wake up, I'm fucking covered in sweat. whatever, oh well, whatever.
It's like such a goofy little song, just like a manic as ever with these big bass lines and breakbeats over this high-pitched noise. I love this song and how weird it is. I would never recommend anyone listen to it. When I listen to it, it just puts feelings inside of me. I don't know, it's weird. What I could recommend though is the song Egg. It's the biggest song on this record, and for good reason. It's probably the Garden's first stab at making a hit song, and it kind of worked. At a whopping 3 minutes and 3 seconds, the Garden managed to make a song that is actually long enough to be played on the radio. If you're watching this video, then you've probably already been familiar with this song. If not, then go listen to it. But this song is, by most people, their first exposure to the Garden, and honestly, that's great. Now, hot take, this is not my favorite song. I like it, but I don't love it. I like the bass and drums, but it's just something about that piano that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I don't know. It's never been my favorite song. A lot of people like it, so don't let my opinion get in your way. The next track is called Devour, and similar to Cloak, it's filled with this manic energy that doesn't let up for the whole song, which I think is admirable. Weirdly, over the months, I've come back to this song mainly for the lines, "I'm gonna knock you out." Just the way that it sounds is so weird, man. Together We Are Great has never been my favorite song. I don't think it has really anything super catchy or memorable, so I don't really listen to it. The last two songs have never been my thing either. It's We Be Grindin'.
We Be Grindin', probably our least favorite song.
It was a song kind of...
When we made it just kind of like, we like grinding in the club with our girls. That's something we like doing. We actually like that, and we like that culture, but at the same time,
we don't love that culture.
We don't love that culture, sorry.
It's okay.
It's fun to do.
It's fun to like goof around and like
um,
go dance at the club.
It's not that we fucking love grinding up in the club. I think I came too strong at the beginning, but it's not that we love grinding in the clubs, it's a little 50-50.
I guess a funny song, but I'd never really come back to it, and Gift is fine, but it suffers from the same problem as Together We Are Great. So, how do I rank this album? Probably an 8 out of 10. I like this album the more I listen to it, and who knows, maybe in a couple years this will be my favorite album, but for now, I think that there are a couple records that beat this one, foreshadowing for sure. Right, I'm gonna go over the next thing super duper quickly because it's just an EP. You Want the Scoop EP. The first song is Clay, and if for nothing else, this one has one of my favorite lyrics ever. Life is a puzzle that you've got to enjoy. Making a reference to both Fletcher and Wyatt's band, Puzzle and Enjoy, respectively. Also, this instrumental is super lush and gorgeous, unlike anything that the Garden had made up until this point. The next song is Make Your Mark. It's one of, like, the few Garden songs that, like, had me smiling while I was listening to it. The goofy-ass accordion sound keyboard and this chorused bass guitar is super catchy, and the vocals on this are super expressive. I really like the song. It's definitely an underrated song for sure. Have a Good Day, Sir is the closest thing the Garden has made to a joke song that's kind of saying something. It's just a long story about getting pulled over by the cops. This one's usually a skip for me since the instrumental isn't super interesting and the lyrics are sort of boring. All Access is the next song. It has this sample-based beat that the Garden have been doing more on this album. Not a huge fan of the song, but it's a killer song when it's played live. I hear it when they play it live. And the last song is You Want the Scoop, and once again, this isn't really something to write home about. It's not all that interesting enough an idea to be almost 3 minutes long, and shows, but overall, the EP is not bad. It's not great either. I would say that the first two tracks, Clay and Make Your Mark, are the best, and I definitely recommend people check those out if nothing else. Anyways, I give this album a 6 out of 10. Now we can move on to the next full-length, Mirror Might Steal Your Charm. Kicking the album off, their Stallion. This is one of the most overtly hardcore songs that the Garden has ever made, and that's always been a cool thing to me. The way that they play with time on this song is super interesting, keeps the song from being boring. I mean, it's barely a minute and 50 seconds. How could it be? The next song is Make a Wish. This one has always perplexed me. It's like a strange industrial sounding song with breakdowns that sound like you're walking through a forest in a Zelda game. The words are just talking about a drunk wizard who can grant wishes. Honestly, I like this song. I think it's got good enough things about it that make it unique enough for me to like it. So I put it in my list, man. That's a good song. Shameless Shadow is next. It's like what would happen if you took an early version of Thy Mission and made it just fucking evil and crazy. It feels like both songs share similar synths, and that's what makes me like it. I think it's a funny sonic exploration into a vintage Casio keyboard. Who am I going to share all this wine with is what feels like a super underrated song with a killer fucking chorus. The Garden is really good at hiding good choruses and lesser known songs. The outro to this song is also really sick with all these pianos coming in. It sounds like the end of a game show. The next song is Frowny Face. This song has a special place in my heart. It's so weird and just like so out there. This song is 2 minutes and it's basically split in two, the first being these vocal chops and drums over weird lyrics, and the other half is the most manic thing the Garden has basically ever done, and I love every second of it. Next song is Message for Myself, a song that I've never been a super massive fan of. It's kind of cool, and I feel like the ideas are executed better on other Garden songs. Call the Dogs Out used to be my favorite off of this album and still holds up pretty well. It's super catchy and to the point. At this point in the Garden's career, they can really make good song after good song with satisfying choruses. If you've ever wanted to hear what a phone ringing would sound like over some sequence beats, then oh buddy, I have good news for you. Voodoo Luck is similar to Stallion, has pretty big hardcore influence on it. The guitar and the drums and the bass all sound like a fucking saw just punching through the mix. It's really cool sound that the Garden will use more in their future releases, and I like the guitar backing and the drums doing a halftime rhythm. The next song is Banana Peel. The audacity of this song is just something else. It's a song that mainly consists of different breakbeats and stock sound effects and lyrics that get stuck in my head way too often. Also, I think people use this song on TikTok to like edit memes of their dogs or something, like spitting on a Roomba. That's what I remember the song. Stylish Spit isn't my favorite on here. It's really only one of two songs I didn't like, the other one being Message for Myself. For me, the song is a bit slow and doesn't really have anything that immediately hooks me. No Destination is the final track, and up until this point, I think it's the longest Garden song. At 4 minutes and 18 seconds, it's hard to put into words what this song feels like. It's like a proper closer. Like, if the Garden had one last song to perfectly finish off their career, it would be this song. It's beautiful, it's cinematic, every note that should be hit is hit, the pianos are drenched in reverb and bass, it's distorted and the drums are punchy, the lyrics are just about like drifting. I love this song, man. Definitely my favorite closer to one of their albums. So, how do I feel overall? I'm feeling a good like 9 out of 10. I like 10 out of the 12 tracks. I don't know, man, just don't sleep on this record. It's one of the best Garden records that they've made. Alright, next album, Kiss My Super Bowl Ring. Clench to Stay Awake is this manic opener with this depressive beginning and ending that gets stuck in my head. I like the lyrics, as I trust in my strong will, I've made it many times before, and I can get through it again. The midpoint is definitely pretty intense, and when it slows down and repeats the intro one last time before finally laying to rest, it's just such a good song, man. The Struggle is a furiously unique song comprising of 3 separate parts, all at varying lengths of crazy. The song that it most reminds me of is the intro to Pom Pom by Ariel Pink. I really like the song's midpoint when it gets really melodic. I'm not a big fan of the more intense sections that the song has, but it's still really nice. The next track is called Sneaky Devil. The opening lines to this song are burned into my brain forever. If you haven't heard the intro to this song, do yourself a huge solid. This whole song is wrapped in like this breakbeat and punk fashion that might be one of the most outwardly political and angry songs that the Garden has ever done. It's kind of hard to tell what he's saying when he's screaming, but if you give a look at the lyrics, you'll get the picture. Kiss My Super Bowl Ring is stylistically similar to Clench to Stay Awake, but instead of being depressing, it's kind of cheeky. I like it that way, and the guitar is so down-tuned that it almost sounds like it's out of tune. The breakbeats on this song are satisfying to listen to. The only thing I have a problem with is the chord progressions can kind of feel uninspired and funky in a weird way. A Fool's Expedition is not really all that memorable to me. I like the flutes at the back of the song, but it's pretty boring to me. AM/PM Truck is next. Now this is what I'm fucking talking about. This song has one of the coolest breaks I've ever seen, with these toms flying all over the place and these vocals that become like almost a whisper. This song has a good and well-deserved chorus, and it's among one of the Garden's greatest hits. And for being almost 4 minutes long, it can kind of fly by pretty quick. Hit Eject is weirdly the closest the Garden has gotten to making a hyperpop song, and it's actually pretty intriguing, but it's not one of my favorites. I like the idea of this song more than the actual song. The King of Cutting Corners, this is the first song in a while that just sort of feels like filler. There's nothing really much to it. I don't like the mix on this song. It's actually pretty distracting with the guitar all the way in the left ear and the drums all the way like blaring really loud. I don't know, it's okay. Okay, so you know how I said Hit Eject was like their hyperpop song? Well, I was wrong. Lurking is actually a hyperpop song. It has Khalif Jones, which is pretty cool. It's the first feature that I've seen on a Garden song. Lowrider Slug also has a feature, and this time it's Ariel Pink. I brought him up earlier in the album. I don't know, I just don't really like this song. I feel like it sacrifices being blown out for its quality, and it's ultimately just one of my least favorite songs on this record. It also happens to be the longest The Garden song, sitting at about 4 minutes and 20 seconds, and it's kind of a pain when you realize, you know, it's not all that great of a song. So overall, I give this record just like a 7 out of 10. It's really low impact for the second half, but the first half is great. That's why I'm giving it higher than a 6. The first half has like hit after hit, but second half, I don't know, it just felt kind of fillery. I feel like it was just a little bit of a step backward from how good Mirror Might Steal Your Charm is. Now that we're done with that, we can move on to the reason why I made this video, and it's the Garden's most recent album, Horseshit on Route 66. Honestly, I don't know how many albums have such a good tone setter as Haunted House on Zillow, starting off with a speech from this older sounding woman. She talks about this ghost with these like subtle pianos in the back. It sounds like it's from some obscure ghost hunting thing on TV, and it really fits the mood. And then jumps into the super heavy bass line that sounds like it's like from hell. It has these 6 descending notes over and over again as the drums shriek in and out of the song. It goes into the verse with this pretty like monotone and disillusioned sound to it, which then breaks into these really powerful shouts that I love. The song really is only like a minute long, but it fills so much into one song. Then it fades out, a couple more vocal samples come in, and then OC93 comes in, which is very similar to the last song. Super heavy bass that sounds like a saw with these thick drums and tinny guitar. This song is truly like a Minutemen song, or something that the Dead Milkmen would do, and I love it. It's super heavy. The screaming on this song is super angsty and raw. At the 2-minute mark, it changes key, which really took me by surprise, but it works well. This song is one of my favorite pure punk songs on this record. The song Puerta de Limusina is next, and from all the punk songs on display, I think this might be the most intense. The distortion is super thick, drums are fast as fuck. Fletcher is screaming his brains out on this song for most of its runtime. It's about the most hardcore thing that they've ever done, in my opinion. Honestly, nothing really comes close to how intense this song is, and stands out because of it. Next song is Freight Yard, which is one of the singles that they released before this album came out. Super funky song with these cool synthetic drum lines and super heavy bass playing along with this more melodic sort of backdrop than on previous songs. It's a nice change. This song is super catchy too. The guitar lines and the chorus are pretty good, and the switch up halfway through is a nice touch. The title track is Horseshit on Route 66. This song is so confusing. It basically repeats the same parts for the first 2 minutes, and then it gets really intense at the last part of it with like a drum solo and birds chirping. I can't make this shit up. If you haven't heard this song, it's kind of hard to explain. It's like an acoustic, electric, industrial folk song with some like Latin influence. Seriously, the Garden don't give a fuck. What Else Could I Be But a Jester is the next song, and oh boy, I did not like this song for a while. It's this weirdly partially rapped, partially just spoken song, electronic, industrial sounding. It's one of the most manic things they've ever written. There are just some weird lines on here, man. It sounds like being stuck inside of a Adult Swim show, like Aqua Teen Hunger Force or 12 Ounce Mouse or something, with all these weird sound effects going on.
X in the Dirt
is the next song. It's another pretty dissonant punk song, but with a nice melody and chorus on it, and the verses are saying stream of consciousness almost as if Fletcher is drunk or something. And I think it adds to like the character of this song. Orange County Punk Rock Legends. This was also another single, and I love it so much. The bass tone on this song goes from high-pitched and distorted, and then comes muted and bassy, and lastly it hits you with that saw sound. It's basically a Dead Milkman song in the modern day. Once again, this song is super short at only 1:40, so there's not much for me to say about it. Right after this song, there's another single, Chainsaw the Door, another banger. I love the guitar tone on this song. It's like Thy Mission, and the drum sound is super punchy on this song. The lyrics are also just mainly pleasure talking about chainsaw and a door. Also, sick breakdown on this song with a cowbell. The next song is Squished Face Slick Pig Living in a Smoky City. This song is them just saying that for like 4 minutes straight. Verses are sort of whatever. I only listen to the song when I'm doing a whole album run. It might be the only song that I don't think is that important. At the Campfire is the last song. It has this vocal sample of Jacksepticeye in the beginning, which is funny, and then it also has this laughing sample that they've used throughout the record at this point. It feels like it's gonna be another punk song with the verses and the chorus, but then he actually starts singing and this acoustic guitar comes in and it starts sounding really nice. I love the time changing on this song a lot. So with that, I think it's a nice way to end the record. At only 10 tracks, 24 minutes, this album is one of their most concise records, and it's my favorite The Garden album, 9.5 out of 10. So my list goes The Garden, self-titled, Rules, You Want the Scoop, The Life and Times of a Paperclip, Super Bowl Ring, Haha, Mirror Might Steal Your Charm, Horseshit on Route 66. We've come a long way from that first video. That first video was 4 minutes long. Check how long this video is. I spent 3 days making this video. I spent 3 days making this fucking video. Man, whatever. So, I hope you guys enjoyed. That's the end of my video. Alright.